Welcome to the It Factor. We're Jemmy and Nye exploring a new blog post by Mr. Len Kaplan, CEO of CDML, a managed service provider in Queens, NY, offering network management, voice over IP, and unified communications as a service, UCaaS, cybersecurity, compliance, infrastructure as a service, IaaS, cloud solutions, and Microsoft 365 and Azure solutions. If you're a small business owner or manage IT for a growing organization, this deep dive is for you. So our mission today is really to cut through the usual political noise. We want to dive into the, let's say, hidden impacts of a government shutdown, specifically on small and mid-sized businesses, SMBs. We're looking at IT security compliance risks, all based on Len Kaplan's article, The Hidden IT Risks for SMBs During the U.S. Government Shutdown. We always hear about the D.C. drama, right? But what does it actually mean for, like, your local doctor's office or that growing firm down the street?
Exactly. That's the perfect lens. And what's really striking about Kaplan's piece is how specific it is. He's talking directly to businesses in that, 15 to 250 device range.
Yeah.
That's often where growth is happening fast, IT gets complicated, but maybe the internal team is stretched pretty thin.
Right.
And he even singles out medical practices, maybe up to around 20 clinicians. For them, the risk isn't smaller just because the business is smaller. Kaplan argues that when that federal safety net weakens, the vulnerability for these smaller regulated places actually scales up.
Up? How so?
Because attackers know defenses are weakened nationally. They see an opportunity.
Okay, got it. So let's unpack that core problem. The article sets this up around a specific shutdown scenario, October 4, 2025, for fiscal year 2026. What actually happens to the tech and compliance gears when the government, basically goes home?
You get this huge operational vacuum, really. The agencies that are meant to coordinate our digital defenses, they're suddenly running on skeleton crews. Kaplan's analysis points to three big failure points. First, and maybe the most immediate, is CISA. That's the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency.
CISA, right, the main federal cyber defense coordinator.
Exactly. And during the shutdown scenario, they're apparently down to about 35% of their workforce. Major parts just frozen.
Wow. 35% capacity for the main agency fighting nation-state hackers. That sounds pretty bad. But realistically, how much does, say, a small medical practice actually rely on CISA directly? Isn't that more for, like, the power grid or huge banks?
Well, that's the exact point Kaplan's making. You don't call CISA directly, no, but your managed service provider, your MSP, or even your in-house security tools. They depend heavily on the threat intelligence CISA gathers and pushes out. So if CISA's operations are hamstrung, their ability to spot and share, new threats, new malicious code, bad IP addresses, it just degrades severely.
Meaning, your defenses might stop yesterday's attacks, but today's newer stuff could slip right through those cracks in coordination.
Precisely. The whole downstream flow of information gets sluggish.
Okay, so the main threat tracker is partially blind. What about the rules and regulations side?
That's the second failure point. Regulatory and oversight agencies. Think the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, or the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission. They handle everything from network rules to protecting consumers from scams. During a shutdown, that kind of critical oversight just slows way down or stops.
And the third point, you mentioned three.
Yeah, the third one is maybe the most insidious for how businesses act. Kaplan notes the expiration of that law people call CISA 2015.
CISA 2015, remind me.
Before the shutdown, it basically gave companies liability protection if they shared cyber threat information with the government. It encouraged openness. But when the shutdown hit, renewing that protection got stuck in limbo.
Okay, hold on. Why should a small business owner care if some giant tech company loses its liability shield? How does that trickle down?
Because it chills information sharing massively. Imagine a big cloud provider gets hit. Without that liability protection, they might hesitate to share all the technical details with the government, fearing they could get sued later based on what they revealed.
So the shield being gone makes companies clam up.
Exactly. They clam up, CISA gets less intelligence, and then your local MSP doesn't get the heads up they need to proactively defend your network based on that nationwide picture. It becomes this, cascading failure of trust and data flow, all starting from a political deadlock.
That completely reframes the shutdown. It's not just federal workers at home. It's critical security information drying up because of legal worries. Okay, this leads us right into the 5 specific risks for SMBs that Kaplan lays out.
Yeah, and we can sort of group these. There are the operational problems and then the regulatory traps. First operational issue. Reduced incident reporting and response. Let's say your team spots some really sophisticated scam or a big phishing campaign. Normally, you'd report it through official federal channels, right?
Yeah, hoping they'd maybe issue an alert or something.
Well, during the shutdown, those channels are degraded, maybe even shuttered. You might report it, but you're probably not getting timely feedback. And the government's ability to coordinate a response across different sectors is just weakened.
Which ties back to your earlier point, weakened cyber threat intelligence. If CISA is short-staffed and the big companies are hesitant to share.
Then the threat indicators reaching your team or your MSP are lagging. They're behind the curve. Your provider might be slower spotting that brand new zero-day attack because the national early warning system is, well, sputtering.
Makes sense. And that lack of good intel makes the regulatory side even trickier, I bet.
Definitely. That brings us to the regulatory trap.
Which is a huge deal for anyone in healthcare or finance, obviously.
That's risk number 3. Delayed compliance oversight and interpretation. If your practice deals with regulations like HIPAA, pronounced HIPAA, or HIATEC or state rules, well, the federal slowdown means delays. Delays in getting clear guidance on new rules, delays in submitting forms, delays in getting certifications. The big risk here isn't necessarily getting fined during the shutdown.
What is it then?
It's that the goalposts might move without warning. When the government reopens, boom, they expect immediate compliance. But you've had this period of confusion and backlog caused by the shutdown itself. Your compliance exposure spikes.
So the guidance slows down, the system you rely on is jammed up, but the compliance clock keeps ticking. Ouch. What about pressures from outside your own walls, like vendors?
That's risk number 4, contract delays and vendor instability. Think about it. Many businesses rely on specialized software or platforms, especially in health tech or fintech, that need some kind of federal certification or oversight.
Right.
If those processes bottlenecks because the relevant agency is shut down, your vendor projects stall, timelines slip, costs go up, maybe the vendor becomes less responsive because they're stuck waiting for federal action.
Okay, delays, intelligence gaps, compliance woes. What's the final big risk?
Risk number 5 is maybe the most direct threat. Adversary opportunity. It's simple, really. Attackers watch the news too. They know when defenses are likely to be weaker. Kaplan specifically calls this combination reduced federal coordination, stalled legal frameworks, a danger zone.
Yeah.
SMBs, which often have, let's say, more predictable security postures than huge corporations, become more visible, more attractive targets during this known period of weakness.
So the shutdown doesn't just pause federal services, it actively paints a target on SMBs' backs for hackers. Okay, so given this really challenging environment, Kaplan's article frames partnering with a managed service provider, an MSP, as a strategic move. How does an MSP actually help hedge against a problem that starts in Washington?
It really comes down to having localized expertise and redundancy. The first advantage Kaplan mentions is rapid local response. When CISA or the FBI might be swamped and slow to react, a good local MSP gives you immediate human help. You're not waiting on hold with a huge federal agency. You've got a direct line to a team that knows your specific setup.
And presumably they're already trying to compensate for that missing federal intelligence you mentioned.
Absolutely. That's the proactive security piece. A good MSP doesn't just wait for alerts. They maintain readiness regardless of federal hiccups. They double down on the basics. Proactive monitoring, scanning, patching, updates. They act as your independent radar when the national one has static.
The article also talks about the benefit of getting everything managed together, IT, voice compliance, all under one agreement.
Yeah, that's key. Avoiding gaps. A solid MSP often bundles IT management with voice-over IP systems, maybe even unified communications as a service UCaaS and compliance support. If you have one team managing network security and another handling your phones and collaboration tools, you've basically created separate potential entry points for attackers. Centralizing it reduces those seams, those gaps they could exploit.
And for those specific medical practices the article mentioned, maybe up to 20 doctors, what's the real bottom line benefit during a crisis like this?
It's certainty and cost effectiveness. Look, uncertainty kills you in a crisis. A good MSP brings predictability. They should have a track record with things like IP compliance, with business continuity, making sure your voice over IP is reliable. They give you access to enterprise-level security tools and know-how the kind big companies use, but at a manageable, predictable cost. Trying to build that level of internal IT, security, and compliance expertise, especially one ready for a crisis, that's incredibly expensive for an SMB.
Okay, so since you can't just sit around waiting for federal help to get back online, let's talk action steps. Kaplan provides 5 concrete things an SMB owner should do now. Where do you start?
First step is internal. Schedule an immediate IT risk check. And this isn't like a massive months-long audit. It's a quick pulse check. Look at your patch status. Are all critical systems updated? Check your remote access controls. How's your multi-factor authentication, your MFA, deployed? Crucially, validate your backups. Actually test them. And check your team's security awareness training scores. Find your obvious weak spots now.
Know thyself, right? Know where you're vulnerable. What about those external dependencies we talked about, the vendors and regulations?
That's action item 2. Review dependencies.
Yeah.
Map it out. Do any of your critical systems, specialized software, reporting tools rely on federal certification or oversight? If they do, what's your plan B if that vendor suddenly goes quiet or their updates stop? You need that contingency before it happens.
Makes sense. And knowing that the official emergency lines might be busy or unresponsive, what about internal prep?
Item number 3, update your incident response plan. Since you can't fully count on prompt external federal help, your internal workflow needs to be crystal clear. Who gets the first call internally? What absolutely must be logged right away? How do you escalate to management or your MSP? When an incident hits, there's no time for people to scramble figuring out the protocol.
Right. Practice the fire drill before the fire. And since people are always a factor.
Action 4 is about them. Communicate with staff. You have to be upfront. Let your employees know the threat level is higher right now. Ramp up phishing training and encourage them to report anything suspicious immediately. Remind them that the usual government reporting channels might be slow. Their eyes and ears are your first line of defense.
Okay. Internal checks, external review, updated plans, staff communication. What's the final step for long-term readiness if the government systems are shaky?
The last one is consider outsourcing oversight. If the agencies you normally rely on for compliance guidance are effectively offline or backlogged, don't just wait. Use your MSP if they offer it, or bring in a third-party auditor now to help maintain your operational readiness and keep your compliance checks on track. It's about proactively filling the gap the shutdown creates.
So wrapping this up, Kaplan's analysis in the hidden IT risk for SMBs during the U.S. government shutdown really drives home that these Washington budget fights aren't just political theater. They create real cascading operational risks for small and mid-sized businesses. That failure of federal coordination puts SMBs, especially regulated ones like healthcare practices, right in the crosshairs for cyber attacks.
Yeah, the main takeaway is you really can't afford to just wait for the federal cyber support system to get back to normal. Kaplan positions partnering with an experienced MSP, not just as, another IT cost, but as a vital strategic move. It's about shoring up your IT, your voice systems, your compliance foundation when that national safety net is visibly frayed.
If you liked this deep dive and found the analysis helpful for your business, please click that thumbs up button. Till next time.